All right, we're live. What's going on, guys? Happy Saturday evening. It's April 18th. We are on, I think, either day 15 or day 16 of this challenge. I forget right now. But tonight, we got Mel and Dave who are going to come in, tell us what's been going on in their world, their real estate, their investing, their business, their local area. So super excited to have them on and talk to them. They were on our podcast, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. So it'd be good to just hear how they're doing. And as soon as we hop in and there they are. We got, a little tough to fit in, but maybe they'll go back and forth and make it work.
We'll squeeze in. Hey, hello, how are you?
Yeah, it's a good thing you guys like each other, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So for anybody who isn't following you or just doesn't really know, your full story, can you take, chop it down, minute, 3 minutes, just who you guys are, what you do, where you're from, stuff like that.
Sure. Well, it's Mel and Dave, Investor Mel and Dave. We are located in North Bay, Ontario, and we are full-time real estate investors. So we specialize in solely buying multifamily residences using none of our own money. And we now own over 100 units. We're well known to have purchased 12 properties in less than 12 months a couple of years ago. And now we mentor people across North America and help them do the same as well. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, just usually the things that you pick up after I miss them, but just the Amazon best-selling book. We won some awards and that type of thing. I won't bore you with that, but yeah, so we love real estate investing.
There you go. Awesome. So obviously it is April 18th. We're now more than midway through April. It's been very interesting to hear everybody's take as, started in March where everybody was freaking out. What's going to happen, and all this stuff. And then as it's slowly gone through. So really curious to hear what the last, couple weeks or even several weeks have been like for you guys, what you guys have seen with your properties, with your other businesses and how you guys have been tackling some of that stuff.
Yeah. I guess April 1st was really the biggest what if, right? Mm-hmm. And we got ahead of it. We texted, we emailed, we called, and we gave a letter in the mailbox to every single tenant that we have in the buildings that we manage as well. Mm-hmm. So 90% of rent came in. The other about 9%, let's say, some came in, and then with some sort of payment or some sort of, they might have made up for it by now. And then there was the 1% usual suspects, right? That we knew whether COVID or whether it was just April 1st as usual, we'd be fighting to get the rent. So after that, everything's been pretty good for April, knock on wood. And again, we're just looking to invest. We're looking to continue. We've talked to financial institutions. We have not had to defer anything, which was our plan all along. And we're looking for more mortgages. I've called my financial institution, said, hey, I want more debt. I want more mortgages. So they said, keep bringing the deals in. We'll keep looking at them, and financing will be a little bit delayed, but it'll be almost business as usual.
Interesting. So just a little bit of context, and sorry if I missed it in the beginning, but where are your properties and how many are you owning and or managing? Just a little more context.
Yeah. So North Bay, Ontario, we're about 3.5 hours, let's say, north of Toronto. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are. And so we have over 100 units ourselves, 24 buildings, 100 units ourselves. We manage probably another 50 units for other investors throughout Canada, in the city as well. Mm-hmm. And we've got 4 deals under contract. Well, with the fourth one, we're going back and forth. We're talking about environmentals. Mm-hmm. But we've got 4 deals under contract. And like I said, the banks I think they like the fact that we're not having to do deferrals and not asking, because I can't say in one side of my mouth say, hey, can you defer my mortgage payments? On the other side say, but can you give me more?
Yeah, no, that was a good conversation we had, right?
Sure.
When everybody was asking, are you guys going to ask for that? What do you do? And what do we do? And yeah, I mean, it sounds really great. Hey, for my payments for a while, but then our goal is to continue to grow. And as Dave mentioned, we're still very active in purchasing. It's pretty hard to ask for, defer my mortgage, but hey, then fund my next 4 deals. It's not going to happen, right? So
yeah, no, it's definitely a difficult conversation. The financing you guys get, what does that typically look like? Is it, some sort of governmental? I was going to start naming U.S. stuff, and then I realized you guys are in Canada. But is it some sort of like government financing? Is it local small banks? Is it more national banks? What does your financing typically look like?
And great question, Chris. And honestly, all of the above. So in Canada here, like kind of like your FHA loans,
Sure.
in Canada here, it's called CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation.
Okay.
Now they don't actually fund; they're more of like an insurance. So, and I was talking about this a couple of days ago. So for the buildings we currently own, we just refinanced. It was about $4 million in real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and CMHC insures the loan. So the A lender allowed us to, then they give us rock bottom interest rates, right? And they allow us to go 30-year amortization, which usually it's 25 here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So they give you a longer amortization, they give you lower interest rates, and they went up to 85% loan to value. So we utilize them for it's kind of like an A financing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we also use smaller credit unions in our area that kind of let us get very, very creative. As long as our ratios make sense, then they're more than happy to fund deals.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also use private lenders. We use mortgage brokers, different banks from different cities. So it truly it just depends on the deal and depends where the deal is in kind of its cycle.
Gotcha. No, that's interesting. I know I'm interested too, because one of the conversations a lot of people are having now is around debt and, how much do you get? Have people been over leveraging? Has debt been too easy to get? And you mentioned 85% loan to value on a refinance, which may sound high to a lot of people, but it depends on a lot of different factors. And one of the biggest ones on a refinance is your debt service coverage ratio. And I'm curious if you guys remember or know what ratio they used when they did the refinance.
Absolutely. So the four buildings, it had to meet a DCR of 1.3.
Okay.
So it had to meet a debt point ratio of 1.3 at 85% loan to value. And that's what allowed us to pull out as much funds as possible. So, and that's what I'm telling people. I'm like, guys, if the buildings are good and the cash flow is good and the debt coverage ratios are good, the banks will lend. Like this was during COVID. They literally
buying the right
refinanced.
properties and exactly.
No, but I just think it's important because a lot of people, when they talk about, loan sizes, right? It's always LTV or, loan to cost for your heavier lifting stuff. But a lot of people take away from, what's your coverage ratio? There's a lot more variables into it, right? Like what interest are you borrowing at? What's your cap rate? What's the coverage ratio? Stuff like that. So I didn't want someone to hear 85% and go, oh, wow, those two idiots, they over leveraged their property going into COVID. And, a 1.3 coverage ratio is actually fairly conservative. Usually the minimum is around, depending upon loan and products and stuff like that, either a 1.2 or 1.25. 1.25 is more popular, but 1.3 is very solid. So I figured that was the case. I didn't think it was like an 85% and they were going to give you like a 1.1 coverage.
No.
So that's why I wanted to ask that question.
And Chris, usually we get the 1.2, but because they're insuring the mortgage for such high ratio and for such a long amortization, they make you go to 1.3, which, hey, I feel safer, right?
Exactly.
More cushion, no more layers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think where a lot of people are going to get stuck is in the bridge or hard money space where coverage ratios are significantly less important, except I don't know about for you guys, but for us, oftentimes we'll get like a 3-year term and then we'll have extensions. And in order to get the extensions, we have to meet certain coverage ratios. I think a lot of people were going to be counting on those extensions. And as their money is coming due, they're not going to be able to hit those, whether it's because of collections or increased costs or, the mortgages are going up. So I think that's where a lot of people are going to be stuck. I'm assuming yours was a fixed interest for 30 years, correct?
In Canada, it goes by like it'll do like it was a 30-year amortization. It was a 5-year term with a fixed rate for that term.
That's right. Someone else was explaining that to me. I forgot it was a little bit different. I gotta adjust my mindset, my questions right now to account for some of the, the 5% difference or whatever it is. So no, but that's good. It's interesting. I had, I don't know if you guys have heard of Chris Turcotte at all. He's another Canadian guy. He's,
cool.
He manages or he runs, division of RPM and something, a Centum Financial Group, I think. I forget. He's got a couple different businesses he runs, but he does like property management and he's a mortgage broker. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that. And a lot of the stuff he was saying and the acronyms and stuff is starting to jog my memory a little bit. So that's good. But what do you guys, because you guys obviously have the mentorship or the coaching program, what do you guys talking to, your students, your community and stuff like that? What are the conversations you guys are having? Are you guys shifting anything? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly new processes. I mean, from everything from tenants, right, to being proactive with your current tenants. So, there's two portions, right? There's what for those who currently own properties and those who are acquired properties. So for those who currently own, well, okay, how do we deal with it? How do you, what are the proper steps? How do you communicate with your tenants? How do you still show compassion? How do you make sure, to maximize on the rent that you're going to be receiving? So there's that whole portion of it. And then of course, yes, they are continuing to close on properties as well. But it is having those conversations and ensuring that they have an exit strategy, because we are all about using other people's money to buy properties. So, really spending time on that exit strategy, and also while calculating the deals, and we show them through our cash flow matrix that we use how to make sure to adjust accordingly. So for example, the interest rates today are fantastic. Are they going to be the same in 4 or 5 years from now? Probably not. And if they're not, then you need to plan. You don't want to look back and say, oh my gosh, now I'm stuck. So it's all about these kind of, okay, so look at what the deal is today, but let's play around with the numbers as well and forecast what's coming, in 4 or 5, try to forecast, or be at least prepared for what may happen down the road as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's hugely important. I think also communicating that flexibility is super important, because a lot of people, I think, anticipate that the numbers you're going to put on paper today are going to be very close to what they are going to be in 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And I'm sure you both know that's hardly ever the case. Things are never what you expect them to be in several years. So I think that flexibility is incredibly important.
And always have a bit more of a worst case scenario, right? I'd rather always be pleasantly surprised and then end up with an extra, $600-700 in my pocket every month, as opposed to not thinking that way, and then you end up being stuck.
Mm-hmm. And again, like we have a cash flow analysis matrix, and you can very fluently move interest rates, move debt, move loan to value, move price per door, like all that stuff, purchase price. So you can truly do in seconds your own stress test. Okay, I'm getting 2 point whatever interest today, or 3. Well, what happens if it goes up to 5? So you can truly do your own stress test in a matter of seconds, and then understand, does the deal still make sense? If things go sideways, well, I've got enough cushion there, so this property looks good. So I think right now is the cushion is very important, right? That's what we've been telling people. So that's what we're doing for our own deals.
No, that's good. Obviously, the couple deals you mentioned that you're in the process of buying, were those pre-pandemic and they've carried into it, or those you've put under contract during this process?
All of the above.
Okay, interesting.
All of the above. So yeah, so some of them were already, under works, and some of them is just, we kind of step back and saying, okay, well, we want to continue to grow, and what can we do? And, reaching out to contacts that we've had in the past that for whatever reason, the deal didn't happen, or the timing wasn't right, or Mr. Seller didn't want to sell right away, and reaching out to them again. And then people's situation is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 of the deals are going to need bank financing, and then we're going to do creative financing for the downstroke. The other 2 are going to be, the third one is strictly no financial institution involved. The owner is going to hold the first mortgage of roughly $1 million, and we're going to have to come up with $2,000 or $3,000. That's going to be private money or investor money. And the third deal will also be a financial institution. That's the one we're negotiating. And then he's going to hold, I think, a second mortgage of like $500,000 or so. So, but that one, the last one I'm talking about, is one that I talked to him about a year ago, and he said, my mortgage comes due next summer. Let's chat. So then, April, May, June, July. So I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking by the time we negotiate, by the time we get it rolling. So I just reached out to him, and now my lawyer's drafted it up. His lawyer has it. We're just hashing out conditions, and it's going to be a fully financed deal again. So this one is during the COVID. People we're trying to keep business as usual as much as possible, so that when we come out of this, we're just slingshotting into hyper gear.
Exactly. We're certainly, there's certain things, right? You're adjusting. You can't view places like you typically would and all that. But again, the numbers make sense. There's pictures, there's videos, there's ways around it. And you could use that as an excuse, but there's ways to also make sure to do your due diligence as well.
Yeah. So That's awesome. And someone actually asked a question for where I was going, but it's as we're now entering this, whatever this is, this pandemic, this market recession, whatever, and going forward, are you guys shifting at all how you're looking at properties? Are you guys, looking to use, less debt? Are you guys looking to look at different sources of capital? Are you guys underwriting differently? And then, how long do you see that kind of playing out?
Yeah, and great question, Chris. I think two things have changed with the lenders and investors, and then another thing has changed with how we're looking at deals. So we've always looked at finding, the cherries and finding the diamonds in the rough. We want all the deals, but we understand you can't have them all, so we truly want to pick the best.
Mm-hmm.
I find now that I'm truly picking the cherries out of the,
the best cherry out of the cherry.
Yeah. So
Yep, I hear you.
because I want to make sure that I'm only picking, the cream of the crop. So, which we've always done, but now more and more I focus on it. So I really want the cash flowing, I only buy cash flowing properties, but the really cash flowing properties, the ones that have a massive lift more. So I'm going to get in, appreciate, force appreciation, get the rents up, do some renos, get a higher refinance. So that it has been kind of, not expedited, but we're doing it a lot more. I can't think of the word. That's twice now today. I can't think of that word. But and then with the borrowers, I find more and more lenders and investors are, I wouldn't say excited, but they're more eager because the stock market, they're seeing people lose lots of money. So I find more people are coming to us. More people are feeling comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people with RSPs, which is 401k for you in the States, moving forward, saying, you know what, I don't want to lose money. I don't, I'm sick and tired of my very low interest rate. Can I invest it with you? And if yes, absolutely, right. So then we find the right property. We show them our exit strategy, how we're going to pay them back, and it's all numbers. Everything's very strategic, of course. Like the 12 we bought in less than 12 months. They were all 5-year terms. We repaid every single person back in less than 2 years, or in less than 3 years. Sorry. So that's the thing, right? So we show them our exit strategy, and we're getting funds that way. We're getting owner financing. So there's a lot of different creative ways that we're able to fund the deals.
Awesome. Quick, short little question, because I don't know this. In Canada, do you guys focus more on the U.S. stock market or your own stock market, or is it a balance of the two?
To be honest, I'm not a big stock guy, just Chris. I don't want to.
We're all real estate.
Yeah,
that's fine. I just wasn't sure.
I had when things were tanking, and I thought, you know what, I'll do like Warren Buffett. When everyone's getting out, I'll get in. Mm-hmm. I created a whatever stock account, and I haven't touched it. Like I thought it'd be a great idea. It was one of those afternoons where I was like, yeah, let's do this, and I haven't even gone into it. I haven't even logged in. So when something's going very well, like real estate, and I understand it and we do well in it. So I'm like, why would I even defer any amount of time? Can I really justify that? Is that fair to Mel and the kids that I justify spending time in something that I don't know instead of making money in something that we love and is our passion? So I just don't want to lie to you. I really don't know what's going on in the stock market.
That's fine. No, I appreciate that. I'll have to look it up, because it's another thing I've just never thought of, and now you guys are forcing me to think of things, so that's good. Did get another question that I thought was interesting, because I think we may have two different answers, and it was coming out of this, what do you see happening with interest rates? And one would love to hear where roughly interest rates are now for, call it, hard money and your typical bank or institutional money, and what you see happening, because I have an idea of what I think is going to happen and kind of how it works here, but I have a next to no information on what happens in your country. So
honestly, we're not that, we're really not that different. They've gone down. I really don't see them going up. People are hurting, right? And the Canadian government, to anyone that needs it, it's issuing $2,000 a month per if you lost your job or anything like that. But that being said, the stimulus packages that are going out, someone's gonna have to pay for those. People aren't gonna, I don't see them going up for a while. Remember last time when we had the recession, rates were dropped, they all plummeted. And then we would get 0.25, it'd go up a quarter every so months, a couple of months. And I don't see that happening for a while. Now that being said, I also I just wonder with that as well. Like I'm noticing a lot of people are kind of going more towards creative financing, because let's say you did get all that mortgage deferrals and all that stuff, and now you're asking, and even if you didn't, but if you're asking the bank for uh, more lending, more funding, more financing, they're spooked right now, unless you've had a relationship, unless you have a strong relationship. So the banks aren't, welcoming people with open arms. So creative financing, I think, is just going to be so vital and important to investors that want to get into it.
I think more people will realize that, okay, if I want to sell my property, maybe the banks are being more slow at accepting people. I may have to be a little bit more creative and open-minded and to that. So, which is great for investors, who love using creative strategies like we do.
And the thing I find awesome about that is, again, people helping people. So the deals we buy that sometimes the DCR isn't at the 1.2 that the bank wants. Those are deals that we love, right? Because we'll see, okay, the bank's not going to fund this deal. They're not going to give us financing. So now let's go for owner financing and private lenders or investors. And, let's say that, I'm thinking of one right now we purchased in October, November, the DCR was 87 or 89, 0.87, 0.89 or something. So the bank's not going to touch that, right? With a 10-foot pole. So the owner ends up holding mortgage. We use someone's RSPs, which again is 401k in the US. They put down the down payment, fully financed deal, no bank financing. You bring it to the bank, the rents are up, you get the appraisal, you refinance it. I think people are going to be
underperforming. Yeah. So it was very strategic, right? We knew that it wasn't going to stay there. We can increase the value.
I wouldn't buy it if it stayed there.
Yeah, there's a reason why we went for it.
Yes. No, obviously you're not going to buy a deal that's going to lose you money every year.
Exactly.
So that makes sense.
But I think that's going to become a lot more common, is the sellers helping with financing, better take backs when they're financing. I think it's going to be.
Yeah. And that's what we found. We have a lot of new members joining our mentoring program, and they're taking this time to use it to their advantage, to learn about it, to learn how to do it properly, of course. So that way, they aren't stopping. They can continue to grow, right? Yeah,
no, for sure. I think that's interesting. I think for us, what we saw happen, just a little context, in late February, early March, when the stock market first started coming down, the Fed cut treasury rates, which is what a lot of the loans are based on. So basically lenders go out, they borrow money from the treasury, they re-lend it out, they take a spread, whether it's 2%, 2.5%, I don't really know. So interest rates came skyrocketing down from 4% to low threes. At the tail end, I saw a couple people even getting in the high twos, but they were low levered, high coverage ratio, stuff like that. Then what started happening is the pandemic started getting worse and worse and worse, and people started understanding how it was going to affect real estate. And the treasury still stayed low, but because lenders got nervous, the spreads went up. So interest rates actually came back up in middle of March to today, back into the 4% range, because just the extra risk involved. Similar to what you guys were saying, I don't think the Fed is going to change rates. I don't think they're going to go negative, and they're between 0 and 0.5 right now. So I don't think they're going to move rates unless they actually have to in the near term, probably in the next 2 years. And then I think once we kind of come out of this and stabilize for, 6 to 18 months, they'll start having the conversations about maybe, hiking rates again, like you said, 0.25, 0.5 in a year or something like that. And right now, even though the spreads are bigger than usual, I think once we kind of hit that coming out of lockdown stabilization, I think that spread will come down very quickly as lenders become more aggressive and more deals become available and stuff like that. So I think, early next year, we'll start seeing interest rates come down temporarily, and then over the long term, probably start increasing a little bit again. But, who knows what's going to happen in the next 18 months, let alone the next week. So, but if you had a gun to my head and said, what do you think is going to happen? That's my, high level guess, which will definitely be wrong. But that's what I see happening. So it's interesting. What's it been like for you guys? I also am curious to hear what the local area is doing and stuff. How's it been like for you guys? Do you feel like your area and government reacted well? What have they been doing? Has it been weird and stuff like that? Just curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think from social point of view, I think everyone it's getting to the point where I think everyone's just tired of being home and ready to get out. And like everyone, when it happened, we were actually in Florida when we were on vacation in Florida when they announced. We got a text from our family saying, "Hey, the schools are going to be closing, or they're talking about closing the schools," right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like
when was
everything
this?
was fine, and I was like,
we were there from March 5th to the 15th. So like I think it was the 13th when they started announcing NBA was shutting down, NHL, and like that's when we were like, oh, okay, this is serious.
Yeah, and
we were home that Sunday. We were excited to go home.
Yeah, so we were just going home. So the timing was, I mean, it was good to come back home at the end. And of course, we self-isolated here at home. And then we made our own, I mean, from a business point of view, we made a lot of our own changes. We're working from home. The staff continues to run, and we made adjustments, right? So let's say for our maintenance and construction team, as opposed to having everybody work on the one site, we're purposely making sure that they go at different locations, you know, to minimize exposure. So there's certain we can continue to run the business, but you know, viewings we're adjusting with virtual tours and all that. So there's ways around it. It's just a matter of, you know, adjusting accordingly. Yeah.
No, that's good. Has it been like, you know, like a very severe lockdown? Like if you're out and about, like they're going to like come and approach you? Have they shut down parks? Is it like, what's it been like for you guys?
Yeah. Parks are shut down. When you go to grocery shopping, you have to stop at different areas. You know, you have to stop that 2 meters, you know, separation. There's certain times for elderly people to go in as well. So there's been a lot of changes like that. Yeah. Parks are shut down. Schools are, of course, are shut down as well.
Yeah. And when you go, it's kind of like everywhere, right? There's the big plexiglass everywhere you go now. You know, you go to the bank or try not to go, but when you go, there's the 6 feet apart and the stand here lines everywhere. And people are taking it serious, which I'm kind of glad. And like the way I see it is, like we go always do our groceries and we have to and that type of thing and do the necessities. But like let's say my grandma, you know, she hasn't left her home since March or whatever, right? So yeah, everyone's taking it pretty seriously.
Yeah, and I think it's hard on kids. For those of you who have kids at home, I'm sure you understand. Being at home, they miss their friends, right? And all that. So it's been, but again, everybody's
FaceTime's not the same, eh?
Yeah,
exactly. I hear you. Awesome. I think that's a really great place to wrap it up. I think you guys gave people a ton of insight and stuff like that. Obviously, anybody on IG can just easily follow you. But for anybody watching this on YouTube afterwards or wherever, where can they learn more about you guys, follow you, get in touch with you, etc.?
Yes, we're all over social media. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it's always Investor Mel Dave is always our username. So it makes it pretty easy. We also have our website, investormeldave.com, where they can check it out as well.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. Both of you or one of you got a final thought, words of wisdom, piece of advice to leave everybody off with?
I just, again, this too shall pass. And what are you doing during these times to be ready to, you know, if you want to be a real estate investor, well, now's the best time to start learning how to do it. So this too shall pass. When everyone's out, like you said, when lockdown finishes, life gets back to normal, be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, and I would agree, right? It's a choice. You can choose to be negative. You can choose to be positive. Make the best of it, absolutely. And then, move forward, take action, and keep growing.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. Everybody watching, thank you so much for tuning in and paying attention. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Bye for now.